Welcome, everyone, to this session of our May 2026 Microcap Conference. I'm Alex Hantman, and I serve as an equity research analyst here at Sidoti & Company. Today, we're pleased to be in conversation with CEO and CFO Janet Huffman of Oragenics, ticker OGEN. During the presentation, please feel welcome to submit questions using the Zoom Q&A interface at the bottom of your screen. After the presentation, we'll open to your questions. And with that, Janet, I'll turn it over to you.
Thanks, Alex. Thanks everybody for joining the session today. I appreciate your time to take out of your day to listen to the presentation. We'll start with forward-looking statements. Obviously, attorneys make us do this. My statements today will have forward-looking statements included in them, so I strongly encourage everybody to read our SEC filings. And if you have any questions as you go through them, feel free to email me or ask any questions you may have. With that, we'll get started on the presentation. Oragenics is a clinical stage CNS biopharmaceutical company. Our lead asset is ONP-002, and it's a first-in-class intranasal neurosteroid for concussion. A condition affecting 69 million people annually worldwide with zero FDA-approved pharmacological treatment. We're actively in phase 2A in clinical trials in Australia with a clear path to our US IND here in the United States. Our intranasal delivery platform has applications across multiple neurological conditions. And the most important thing that I'd like to stress to everybody today is that we're not a one-product company. When we purchased these assets, ONP-002 became our lead asset, but we also purchased 8 other small molecules in the CNS space, as well as all of the intellectual property to our intranasal delivery device as well. So we're building a CNS platform and not just one drug. So why invest in Oragenics? Well, first, we're first and only. There's no approved pharmacological treatment for concussion that exists anywhere in the world. We intend to own that category. There's zero competition. Our NCE designation and IP portfolio protection goes through 2040 plus, which gives us substantial runway before any generic or biosimilar threat becomes real. We're not a preclinical story. We are dosing concussed patients as we speak right now in Australia and our phase 2A trials. What we learned from our phase 2A trials is de-risking our US pathway. We're targeting to submit our IND to the FDA at the end of this year and to start US-based clinical trials in 2027. We have financial discipline. There's zero debt on our books. We don't burn through cash recklessly. We try to focus our financial resources on moving the needle in our R&D and providing shareholder at every point we can. And we have pipeline expansion. Beyond ONP-002, we're actively building the CNS pipeline with our other 8 small molecules. We're using AI currently with those molecules. And we're also evaluating other complementary licensing opportunities to add on to our CNS portfolio. We have a strong team. Our CMO, Dr. Kelly, has led some of the most significant concussion research programs in the country. He's spent his entire career treating people with concussion. He's worked in the military. He was active in the Iraq wars, treating our military personnel for concussion. He has worked in the NFL, setting up concussion protocols with Chicago Bears, and he set up the Intrepid Center of Excellence at the Walter Reed National Military Medical Center. And Dr. Frank Peacock, our Chief Scientific Officer, is an active ER doctor. He owns his own CRO. And he's done extensive research in biomarkers, initially in cardiac and most recently in TBI. So the two of them bring depth of experience and knowledge to our team and I'm super excited I get to work with them every single day. So let's talk about market opportunity. We have a unique opportunity to tap two markets. The concussion market is projected to be 8.9 billion by 2027. Annually, there's 69 million concussions worldwide. Uh, the drug delivery market is projected to be 125 billion by 2030. There's zero FDA approved pharmacological treatment for concussion. That's the market that we are entering as a first mover. So tons of opportunity as we continue to move forward. So what's the current standard of care for concussion? What does that look like? Well, right now it's rest and hope. I'm sure a lot of you have either suffered a concussion or had a family member suffer a concussion. There's no drug, there's no intervention. It's just observation and time. There's drugs that they'll give you to manage symptoms and pain, but there's currently nothing to address the brain injury and the cascading effects to your body once you've suffered that concussion. And what's most staggering is that about 30 to 80% of patients will go on to develop post concussion syndrome, which is ongoing cognitive impairment, headaches, mood disruption. There's still nothing to treat that. And this is the problem that we're working to solve. OMP002 focuses on the brain injury itself. It intervenes at the moment of the injury, not to just manage symptoms after the fact, but to address the brain injury itself. OMP002 is the only pharmacological treatment in active clinical development with a clear FDA pathway for acute concussion. It's a first-in-class intranasal neurosteroid. IP protection goes through 2040 plus. What makes it different is what it does. It targets the biology of brain injury. It reduces swelling, inflammation, and oxidative stress. It's not masking symptoms, it's treating the injury. Our phase 1 results for safety confirms safety across 40 patients, with zero serious adverse events. And that safety profile is the foundation that won us our HREC approval in Australia and allowed us to begin dosing concussed patients in Australia in April. I'll talk a bit about our mechanism of action, but what I'm encouraging everybody to do is go to our website. On our homepage, we have a video that goes through our mechanism of action, and it does a great job of explaining how it works. But I'm going to give a brief overview here. What you'll see is a picture of what our device looks like. It's small, fits in the palm of your hand, it's U-shaped. One end goes in your mouth, and one end goes in your nose. We worked with ENTs on the design. The reason that it is unique around blowing the drug out of the device through your nasal cavity and into your olfactory region is because the act of blowing actually closes the soft palate in the back of your mouth. It directs most of the drug directly through your nasal passages and into the olfactory region, reducing the amount of drug that might go back down your throat. This reduces systemic exposure as well. So OMP002 travels through the olfactory pathway directly to the brain. It bypasses the blood-brain barrier and it delivers fast-acting neuroprotection, minimal systemic exposure. And this is why our phase 1 data showed clean tolerability. And it's also why nasal delivery is increasingly seen as the preferred platform technology for CNS indications. Our novel intranasal device can be used across other small molecules for CNS as we continue to develop our assets, but it also provides the potential to license it as well to other companies to deliver their drugs. Our phase 1 safety data is validation that allows us to have the conversation we're having today. Safety studies showed neuroprotective effects observed within hours of dosing. Pharmacokinetics confirmed minimal systemic exposure, and there were zero serious adverse events. That's the body of evidence that earned us our HREC approval in Australia, as I referenced earlier. Our phase 2A clinical trial is a 40-patient randomized placebo-controlled study currently active in Australia. The first dose occurs within 12 hours of concussion. That window is critical. It's when neuroinflammation is most acute and intervention has the most impact. We're capturing safety, tolerability, and feasibility as our primary endpoints, which sets us up for a clean data readout and a strong submission, IND submission to the FDA, which we're targeting at the end of 2026. Let's walk through where we are in real time with our phase 2A trial. McKay Base Hospital was activated on March 31st, and our first patient was dosed within days of activation. To us, that reflected clinical site readiness as well as just a need. This is something that people are looking for. Alfred Hospital in Melbourne was formally activated in April, and patients are currently being screened there now. Our third site will be Royal Adelaide Hospital. We've completed our site initiation, we've done staff training. We're just waiting for their local research governance office to give the final approval, which we anticipate imminently. So we'll have 3 sites, 2 are active now, and 1 is on the runway. On the US side, we are targeting our submission to our Type C FDA meeting request letter by the end of Q2 this year. And that formal pre-IND dialogue is going to be instrumental as we finish our formal IND application and submit that by the end of this year. We're targeting US-based trials in 2027. So we may be a small microcap company, but our intranasal delivery platform is not purpose-built for OMP-002 alone. The same proprietary device and delivery system has demonstrated applicability across neurological conditions, TBI broadly, stroke, seizure, Alzheimer's, Parkinson's. Beyond the device platform, we've formalized an AI-driven discovery collaboration with Receptor AI. So we're actively working with them right now to identify additional CNS indicators for our other 8 small molecules. Like I said, we're not a one drug story. We're building a CNS platform and adding shareholder value every step of the way as we go. So let me leave with what we have coming. Royal Adelaide Hospital activation is imminent with pending final regulatory approval any day. We're actively screening and enrolling patients at 2 clinical trial site locations in Australia right now. We'll continue to provide multi-patient enrollment updates as we hit certain thresholds. Our Type C FDA meeting request is on target end of Q2. Our annual shareholder meeting is scheduled for June 29th. Our full IND submission is on track for the end of 2026. And our phase 2A data readout, we're targeting Q4 2026, Q1 2027. Each one of these milestones is a catalyst. We're not waiting years to find out if this works. We're pushing hard to get to the answer and cross that finish line into commercialization as fast as possible. With that, I will let Alex take over questions.
Absolutely. Well, thank you very much, Janet. Maybe we could start with the science and then zoom out a little bit into commercial. So maybe to start with the treatment window,
Mhm.
what does the window of opportunity look like for somebody to use this in the real world? And how do you sort of manage the operations of getting that to them in an ER or other setting?
Yeah, it's a great question. And one that we're really focused on in our phase 2A feasibility trial. So the window of opportunity is very much like a stroke trial. It's 11 to 12 hours. And so part of feasibility is, can we get somebody into the ER and identify them, go through all of our inclusion, exclusion criteria, go through all of the consent forms and still dose them within 11 to 12 hours. We've screened probably 25 to 30 people. We've been able to enroll, I believe, around 5 so far. It's in PR. You can look it up. And some of the barriers there are just other injuries. CT scan is one of the criteria. A lot of people have come in with have been in a car accident, and so there's other fractures to their body that just kind of preclude them from follow-up visits or additional cognitive testing. So these are all good things that we're learning in 2A that are helping us establish a strong protocol for our larger trial in the United States.
Great context. And so how durable, is the effect? Is it something that could be administered multiple times for
Sure.
stronger effect? Yeah, how does that work?
So right now, protocol is 2 times a day for 5 days.
Okay.
We have people come back at day 3, day 5, and day 10. But yes, through our clinical research, we're hoping we'll dial in dosage and how many times can it be administered. These are all things that we're learning through clinical trials.
Understood. And could you talk a little bit about, platform potential here and,
Yeah,
moving into other CNS disorders or, yeah,
yeah.
things like that.
Yeah, so our other small 8 molecules, like I said, we're using AI to look at receptor binding points to understand what indications they may be for. And we've had some early signs there that we're exploring. Um, Listen, we would all love to find an amazing solution to Alzheimer's or dementia. There's currently no treatment for things like PTSD. These are all CNS disorders that we're looking at, but it's still very preclinical. So I don't have any strong indications of where they will go, just that there's some opportunity there that we're chasing down.
Understood. And so from the current trial that's running, uh, what do you think is the outcome that sort of gives you more confidence? Like, are you going to get safety and efficacy, or are you going to build towards efficacy? Could you tell us a little bit more about that?
Yeah, absolutely. It's a small trial and they aim more at feasibility. We're obviously going to continue safety testing. That's a given. We're testing biomarkers as well. And the biggest things we hope to learn are can a concussed patient deliver this drug themselves? It's a spray dried powder. They have to blow it through their nose. They're likely experiencing headaches and some confusion and other things. So far, they've all been able, everybody that's enrolled has been able to administer the drug themselves, no side effects, no concerns around that. um, on the other side, obviously we're testing for a lot of things. One of the things that we're looking at are biomarkers. We're working on a trigger to treat for concussion. We're trying to identify that sensitive high risk population, that 30 to 80% that are more likely to suffer from long-term concussion symptoms. Those are the people that spend years suffering from their concussion and sometimes the rest of their life. We're hoping that OMP002 is the drug when delivered within the first 11 to 12 hours can eliminate the long-term concussion symptoms.
Great, thank you. Maybe let's switch gears a little bit into commercial. You
Yeah.
mentioned Dr. Kelly, who's done a lot of leadership in military research for TBI. What do to what extent do you think you're ready to start having, conversations about veteran treatment, or could you talk about the timeline, to an active military market?
Yeah, absolutely. I think we still have a long road, right? We're in 2A feasibility with 40 patients. I think that it's going to be important for us to get into 2B and a much larger trial with some significant endpoints and data that we're going to evaluate around recovery, what that looks like, patient-reported outcomes, things of that nature. But because we are an NCE and it's an unmet need, we do have some significant levers we can pull to accelerate the commercialization process. It will require a larger trial with some more beefy data to have that conversation with the FDA. But we're confident that it'll be positive.
Understood. I think another, big area, for demand is sports. I mean, we mentioned
Yeah.
earlier I had a concussion, while skiing.
Yep.
And obviously professional sports leagues have very regular concussions for their players. So, similarly, I guess, how are you thinking about building partnerships there or sort of timing in that market?
I mean, I think there's a ton of opportunity both with the military and with, some of the sport organizations for even a 2B trial, right? I think it would be great to partner with somebody like that for a 2B trial and have a real specific focus when we get there. Um, the biggest thing we try to emphasize when we're trying to partner or talk to sport organizations is that we're not an adversary. We support football, we support soccer, we support hockey, we support the military. What we're trying to provide is a safe and effective treatment. It's going to happen. Concussions are going to happen, right? You with all of the developments they've had in helmets and protective gear, they're going to happen. And at the end of the day, this is their job. This is what they do, and they love it, and they're not going to stop. And so our goal is to provide a safe treatment for the people that are at high risk for concussion, just like our NFL players, our hockey players, and our military personnel.
Great context. Maybe let's, talk a little bit about the M&A side of commercial. We have some questions around
Yeah.
potential, for acquisition or non-dilutive funding or partnerships with pharma companies. So could you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, we're open to all of it, honestly. We're constantly evaluating all of our options. We're we're trying to provide shareholder value at the same time that we're trying to make the world a better place, developing a drug for concussion, as well as other CNS opportunities. So anytime we can find non-dilutive funding, we're all in. We've submitted DoD grants. There's been a little restructuring there in the last couple of years, which has made it a little bit more difficult to navigate. Partnerships, we're always open to them if it makes sense. And whatever anybody brings to us, we're open to the conversation. We recently signed an LOI. We're working hard to try and put a license agreement in place for a device, a little bit different path, but also in the TBI space. And the device would hopefully, so OMP002 and our other molecules will treat our drugs to treat like at the time of an incident. But there's millions of people out there today suffering from long-term concussion syndrome, which is leading into other things like, dementia and CTE. And we believe this device, if we have the opportunity to develop it, could be an answer or solution to those that are currently in distress that ONP002 and our other assets might not be an answer for.
Absolutely. I think that also begs the question, tens of millions of, concussions a year, as you mentioned,
Yeah,
millions with long-term effects. What do you think has led to the gap in treatments, that's persisted
yeah.
for so long?
There's a lot of education that needs to go into it. And we try hard to push a lot of stuff out on our social media platforms just around brain health in general. There's still a lot of people that think, oh, you just got your bell rung, rest, get back to work. And when you're dealing with athletes and military personnel, the last thing they want is to be taken out of the action ever. And so there's a lot of education around like this potentially gets you back in a whole lot faster, right? If we can address the injury within hours and get you back on a path of recovery faster than sit around and wait for, yourself to feel better. Even when you sit around and wait, that's not healing your brain injury. There's a cascading effect of inflammation and all sorts of things that are still happening in your body. When a concussion occurs, the neurons in your brain, they start to twist, they turn, they break, they die. It creates a debris field. Our drug crosses the blood-brain barrier and immediately starts to clean up that debris field. It's neuroprotective and starts to reduce swelling and oxidative stress right away. So potentially it gets people back in the action a little bit faster in a safer way.
Makes sense. I think also we had some questions around balance sheet positioning
Yeah.
and burn rate. Could you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, absolutely. So we filed our Q1 financials just a few weeks ago. We had roughly 6.1 million in cash. We're non-revenue generating companies, so cash and shareholder equity kind of equal each other there. We don't have any debt on the balance sheet. Um, we obviously will need to continue to raise capital in some sort of way as we move forward into clinical trials, which is why we're always evaluating what our options are, right? Non-dilutive is always what we're looking for. It's not always available. But anytime we have to do a capital raise, we're always trying to find the most accretive way, especially if there's dilution that needs to occur. We try to make sure it's accretive dilution. Adding shareholder value is one of the most important things that I can do. And so, even in a capital raise, right, we are concerned about how it affects current investors and potential future investors.
Understood. And something that investors also often think about is, intellectual property.
Oh, yeah.
So could you talk a little bit, yeah, about, what the company owns or has licensed in terms of drugs and the device and everything?
Yeah, we have a pretty robust IP portfolio, which can be a lot to manage. So it's a global patent portfolio for a device, and there's a lot of patents either pending or issued at this point. It's constant work. It seems to never end. But we do have strong IP protection out through past 2040 at this point, and we continue to file new provisionals as we go. Um, and anybody who knows this knows that as you go, you're going to continue to make changes and improve. And every time we do, we continue to protect the assets.
Understood. And we spoke about this earlier, in terms of biomarkers. Could you talk a little bit about,
Yeah.
what biomarkers people should be thinking about when they're
Mhm.
looking at concussion treatments? We spoke about BDNF, but maybe there's more that you track.
Yeah, so there's, I think it's 3 to 5 specific biomarkers that we're most interested in that we are investigating. GFAP is probably the first one, right? So in a perfect world, part of inclusion, exclusion, and actually will be when we get here to the United States, would be several things, right? CT scans, nasal exams, things of that nature, but also biomarkers. That 30 to 80% of the population that suffer a concussion that will go on to experience long-term concussion symptoms, they tend, what we found, to have certain elevated biomarkers. So we're working to create kind of a trigger to treat scenario where at the time that somebody presents with concussion, there are certain biomarkers that we can check, and if they're elevated, it might indicate that they are the at-risk population that we're looking at. And so obviously biomarkers are sensitive subjects. The FDA accepts some. We're still working on that conversation around accepting, biomarkers around TBI. So it will continue to be part of what we look at in our clinical trials, and a strong conversation we have as we move forward.
Makes sense. Well, listen, as we come up on time, maybe one last question for investors who may be familiar with, CMS, CNS diagnosis and treatments, or TBI in particular, but new to your story. How would you sum up the value proposition for them?
There's a ton of value. And every CEO you talk to, especially in the microcap field, is going to say we're severely undervalued in the market, but we're severely undervalued in the market. It's incredibly difficult to be heard right now. There's a lot going on, which is exciting and also frustrating at the same time. So we're a platform. We're developing a platform. OMP002 is our lead asset. But we're trying to add shareholder value along the way. We have 8 other molecules. We have a novel device that we aim to license to other people as well as use with our small molecules. And we always continue to look at complementary assets that will strengthen our CNS platform as we continue to grow.
Great answer. And with that, we are at time. So I'd like to thank you, Janet, for sharing the Oragenics story with us, and also thank everybody listening for spending time with us today.
Yes, thank you so much. Appreciate your time.